Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astatar Sutta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Astatar Sutta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha, Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadis Ki Jai. And Thai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Shri Shri Guru, Shri Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is by His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we're reading from chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Chapter 2, text number 15. Chapter 2, text number 15. Please repeat after me. Yam hina vyartayantyete Yam hina vyartayantyete Purusham Purusharshabha Purusham Purusharshabha Samaduka Sukham Dhiram Samaduka Sukham Dhiram Somritat Vaya kalpate. Somritat vaya kalpate. Yam hina vyartayantyete. Purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somritatvaya kalpate. Yam hina vyartayantyete. Purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somritatvaya kalpate. Please chant. Yam hina vyatayantete. Purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somritatvaya kalpate. Yam hina vyartayantete. Purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somrityatvaya kalpate. Yam hina vyartayantete. Purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somritatvaya kalpate. Vaishnavis, yam hina vyartayantete. Purusham purusharshabha. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Somritavaya kalpate. Yam, one to whom he certainly, na, never, vyatayanti, are distressing, ete, all these, purusham, to a person, purusha rishabha, O best among men, sama, unaltered, dukkha, in distress, sukham, and happiness, dhiram, patient, saha, he, amritatvaya, for liberation, kalpate, is considered eligible. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Bhai Charnarvinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. Anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. In the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order, sannyas, is a painstaking situation. But one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties usually arise from having to sever family relationships, to give up the connection of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as a kshatriya, he is advised to persevere, even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24, and his dependents, young wife, as well as old mother, had no one else to look after them. Yet for a higher cause, he took sannyas and was steady in the discharge of higher duties. That is the way of achieving liberation from material bondage. Yam hina vyatayante te purusham purusharshaba samaduka sukham dhiram somrittatvaya kalpate. Om Jnanatirmandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dandati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Gurmukam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram. Hare Krishna. So it is my great good fortune to be here this evening, here in Sri Sri Rukmini Dwarkadish Temple, here in Los Angeles, California, United States of America. And we welcome all the devotees for coming this evening. Thank you for coming. And before I begin to speak, I seek the blessings of all the devotees that are present today, that I can speak for my own purification and say something of value coming from our Guru Parampara. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So we're reading from the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, contents of the Gita summarized. This is one of my favorite chapters of Bhagavad Gita. So many wonderful verses are there, and so many important life lessons, like we will be learning today, a very important lesson, to be equipoised in happiness and distress. This chapter begins with Arjuna appealing to Lord Krishna to kindly instruct him in the matters of devotional service, of spiritual life. The first chapter, we heard about all the different armies on the battle of Kurukshetra. The Kauravas are fighting against the Pandavas. It's a fratricidal war, brother against brother, cousin brother against brother, and all family members fighting against each other. And Arjuna asked Krishna to wheel the chariot between the two armies so he could see who was fighting. And he saw his teacher, Dronacharya. He saw his cousins, Duryodhana, and the other Kauravas, and he was just overcome with emotion, and he sat down in the chariot and he said, "Oh Govinda, I shall not fight." And he gave all different reasons why it was not proper to fight this war. But he was so perplexed that ultimately here in the second chapter, in the 7th verse, he comes and he just falls at the lotus feet of Krishna and appeals to him for guidance. Karpanya dosho pahatta swavava prachami tvam dharma samuda chetaha yatstreyahan syan nischayad bruhintan me shashasteham shadimam tvam prapanam. He says, now I am confused about my duty. I have lost all composure due to miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you what is best for me. Please instruct me. Please instruct me. Please instruct me. So he's appealing to Krishna to kindly instruct him. He's just totally confused. He's bewildered. And then Krishna calls him a fool. He says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asochan Anvasocastvam Prajna Vadamscha Bhashase Gatasumsa Katasumscha Nanusochanti Panditaha. He says, Asochan Anvasocastvam Prajna Vadams. Your vadams, your words, you're speaking learned words, but you're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. The wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. And he begins to instruct about the Atma, about the soul. He says, Lord Krishna explains, Na tvam evaham jatu nasam Natvam neme jinadipaha Natchaiva nabhavishamaha Sarve vayam ataparam. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor will there ever be a time when any of us cease to be. And then he begins to speak about the process of reincarnation, how the soul within the body travels even within this body from boyhood to youth to old age, and then transfers into another body at the time of death. Dehinos minyata dehe komaram yovanam jara tatade hantara praptir dirastatra namuyati. Namuyati. Muyati means confused. But one who is dira, one who is sober, he's not confused by this change of body. From a small baby body to a youthful body to a body suffering from old age. The soul is traveling, and then at the end of this body, the soul gets out of this body and gets into a new body. Just like someone is driving a car, and the car gets old, you get rid of the old car, the driver gets into a new car, and then again begins to drive. In the following verse, that is text 13, next text 14, we begin to get on the topic of today, which is transcending the dualities of happiness and distress. Mattasparshastu konteya shitoshna shuka dukada agama payano nichas tams tatikshasva bharata. Krishna explains that the happiness and distress are like the winter and the summer seasons. They come and they go. And one should learn to tolerate them, titikshasva, without being disturbed. So we see now we have the winter season is going on, it's cold, it's raining, but very soon again the summer season will come, it will be hot, we'll get all kinds of California oranges and mangoes and all kinds of things. Summer fruits will come, although now we're getting them from Mexico, so it's okay. But point being that happiness and distress are coming and going again and again, just like winter and summer. There's nothing we can do to stop happiness and distress from coming. So a wise person can learn to tolerate the coming and going of happiness and distress and not be disturbed. And in today's verse, we still have? Yeah? Today's verse, Yam hina vyatayanti ete purusham purushar shabha samadhuka sukham dhiram so mritat vaye kalpate. So sama means to be equal. So we're taught in this verse to be equal in duk. Duk means misery or suffering. And sukham means happiness. So whether there's duk, misery, or whether there's sukh, happiness, we should be sama. Sama means equipoise, same, sama, same, balanced. We seek a balance in our lives. There's that verse about Samadarshanaha, how the great soul, he sees everyone equally. Vidyavanaya sampane brahmani gavi hastani shuni chaiva swapakecha panditaha sama darshanaha. So this word sama, equal. Sama darshanaha. Darshan means to see. Like we have darshan of the deities. We see the deities, we have darshan. Sama darshanaha, equal vision. Here in today's verse, we're taught sama, dukkha, sukham, dhiram. We're taught to be sama, same, balanced in dukkha, unhappiness, and also sukha, happiness. In dukh and sukh, we should be sama, we should be equal. And we should be dhiram. Dhiram means sober, very peaceful and focused. In this word-for-word translation, Srila Prabhupada translates dhiram as patient. We should be very patient. So when the happiness is there, when the distress is there, we should be equal and we should be patient. Just like if you're walking down the street and all of a sudden the wind is blowing really hard and it's hard to walk. Just be patient for a moment or two, the wind will slow down. You can continue walking. So similarly, in our lives, we're walking along and all of a sudden the severe winds of dukh, of misery will come. Just be patient. It'll cool down a little bit and we can walk. Or the heavy winds of sukh may come. We may get super happy for some reason, and that may also be a cause of distraction from our devotional service. So sometimes extreme happiness may come, extreme distress may come, but in every instance we should just stay equal and tolerate and be patient, dhiram, and continue our devotional service. One time I was in Vrindavan. It was my first time in Vrindavan in India. It was my first time in India. 1991, our flight landed. I got in a taxi with my good friend who I just, by Krishna's arrangement, met on the flight. We've been best friends, and somehow Krishna arranged we were on the flight together. And he had been to Vrindavan many times, but it was my first time. So he got a taxi with his family. We traveled to Vrindavan. There were so many animals. There were cows, there were camels, there were donkeys, there were pigs, there were chickens and roosters and sheep and goats, all kinds of animals on the road. And they were making all kinds of dogs, roof, roof. There was all kinds of, it was like a zoo. So we reached the Vrindavan, and I was given accommodation with a group of devotees who were walking around India on pilgrimage called Padayatris. And the next day was the Vrajmandal Parikrama, where we walk all around Vrindavan for 30 days by foot, covering many, many kilometers and visiting so many holy places. So it was my first time, and there was a great devotee. His name is Lokanath Swami Maharaj, and he was leading the parikrama. He's leading this group, and one devotee from the Netherlands his name was Eka Chakragram. He was his personal assistant. But Eka Chakragram, after 3 or 4 days, he drank some bad water that was from a well or something, or a hand pump. We got our water from hand pump. You had to pump and the water came out. He drank that water and he got so sick that he couldn't even stand up. He was just out. So I was given the opportunity to be Lokanath Swami's personal assistant. And I was very new. I was still Bhakta Eric. I was not initiated or anything. So I was serving Lokanath Swami and also Purusha Traya Swami, one very senior Swami from Brazil. He was there. So I was doing service for them, washing their clothes, bringing them their prasadam, their food, and there were so many monkeys. And I was trying to always keep the door closed, and they were always trying to run in and grab the food and different things. It was a big struggle. We were in a place called Kamyavan. Kamyavan is filled with monkeys. And there was, I don't know if we had even a proper door where we were staying. Very tough. So actually, for some reason, I don't know why, but I was feeling a little depressed. I have no idea why. Just the mood is coming and going, the mind's energy. I was feeling some depression. And both Lokanath Swami and Purusha Traya Swami, they could understand I was a bit depressed. They were asking me, what's wrong? I said, I don't know what's wrong. They said, do you want to stop this service, do something else? I said, no, I want to continue the service. And I chanted this shloka. I had learned this shloka. Matasparshastu kanteya shitoshna shuka dukada agama payano nichas tamsta tikshasva bharata. Matasparshastu kanteya. Sparsha means the senses. So from the senses are coming tukante shitoshna, shita ushna, just like summer, just like winter, sukha dukkha, happiness and distress. Happiness and distress is coming like the winter and the summer seasons. Matasparshas tukanteya, shitoshna sukha dukkha da. Agama payano nichas tams tatikshas vabharata. Tatiksha means to tolerate. One must tolerate happiness and distress, just like one must tolerate winter and the summer seasons. The non-permanent appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress are like the non-permanent appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So today's verse, it continues this theme. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So we have to learn to tolerate. Sometimes we're happy, sometimes we're sad, but we should always remain steady in our service. And the most important service that we can perform is a regular chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we should never give up this chanting. Sometimes there'll be good times, sometimes there'll be hard times, but in all times we should continue this chanting. Because this chanting is the great panacea for this age of Kali. This age of Kali is an ocean of faults, but there's one good quality, and that's this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Kaler dosha nidhe rajan asti yeko mahan gunan ekeha mukta sangam param vrajet. That this age of Kali, Kaler dosha, Kaler, this age of Kali, dosha, dosha means faults. Hey Rajan, O king, asti yeko mahan gunhan. There's one eka, one good quality. Mahan, mahan means great, gunan means quality. This chanting of the holy names. Kaler doshanid he rajan asti heko mahan gunad kirtanad yeva Krishna syat. This kirtan of Krishna syat, this Krishna kirtan, mukta sangam param vrajet, will give us freedom from the pangs of this miseries of the age of Kali. So this is the great chanting, this is the great boon, and we should become Krishna conscious ourselves, practice this chanting, and also distribute this chanting to others. That it's said that we should make our life successful. Bharata bhumite hoy manusya janma jar janma satakakari para upakar. And especially one who's born in India, but everyone should make their lives successful by becoming Krishna conscious, and then help others become Krishna conscious by distributing Krishna consciousness to them. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to ask if there are any questions or comments. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Okay, in the purport it says in the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order sannyas, is a painstaking situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering, you took sannyas, was it a painstaking situation?
It was and it is. But I think any situation in this material world is going to be a painstaking situation. There's no free lunch. There's no getting by easy in this material world. We take a human birth, or any kind of birth in this material world, we have to deal with janma, mrityu, jara, vyadi, birth, death, disease, and old age. Everybody has to deal with it. Adhyatmik klesh, adhibautik klesh, adhidaivik klesh. Miseries from our body, miseries from our mind, miseries from other living entities, and miseries from nature, the demigods. So everyone's in a painstaking situation. Taking sannyas is an additional painstaking situation. And Krishna says in Gita, Yeya tam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajam yaham. As you surrender unto me, I reward you accordingly. So sannyas is a big commitment. It means lifelong celibacy. It means following very strict guidelines of social etiquette and behavior. And even within ISKCON, there are special austerities associated with the sannyas ashram. There's a lot of investigation and scrutiny and review and criticism, and it's a very it's quite a yagya. It's quite a yagya. But we do it for the pleasure of Guru and Krishna. So in this way, we take it up. Every ashram has difficulties. Whether if you're a brahmachari and you don't like what they serve for lunch, you don't have many options. If you're a grahastha, you can cook what you want, right? If you're a grahastha and if you had triplets, if you have 3 babies crying at the same time, it may be difficult, challenging to do with, maybe keep you awake at night. So everyone has their austerities in every ashram. And the vanaprasthas, they leave home, they come back, they leave home, they come back. And they're traveling to holy places, and maybe they get robbed along the way, and so many difficult things. Every ashram has its difficulties. We just have to see which ashram will be the strongest to practice Krishna consciousness. Like in the Gajendra Moksha Lila. Gajendra the elephant, he's a land animal. And the crocodile attacked Gajendra, is a water animal. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, Gajendra is a land animal, so he's more strong on the land. Crocodile is a water animal, more strong on the water. So similarly, we have to see what our nature is, in which ashram will be the strongest. Every ashram has austerities. Sannyas has some very particular austerities, definitely. Especially as it's mentioned in the purport, it means severing ties with family. And that can be very painful. And I remember I went to see my father, who was getting ready to leave his body in Portland, Maine. And I stayed about 4 months with him. And I was on the sannyas waiting list. And I heard, I can't confirm this, but I heard that there was some opposition, some complaints, that why is this sannyas candidate spending time with his family, So it's very painful. It's very painful. I can't confirm it. I heard it secondhand. But even just to contemplate it, that I was doing my best to give Krishna consciousness to my father. And when he did leave his body, I had 2 dreams about him just a week after he left. And in both dreams, I saw him with a japa mala in his hand. So I think there was some benefit. And one dream he was in Mayapur chanting japa. So some benefit came. So does this give some indication? Is this some help in answering your question? Yeah? Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you for the class, Maharaj. I was just wondering how we can really absorb and live what we're reading and hearing in the Bhagavad Gita and Prabhupada's books.
Mhm. So in order to get more and more absorbed in Prabhupada's books and actually living the life, living them, I feel that association with devotees is extremely important, especially advanced devotees. And when we're associating with devotees, it means performing devotional activities with them, especially hearing and chanting, like attending the morning program and doing kirtan with them and dancing in the kirtan and chanting japa with them, all the hearing the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. These are all activities at devotees like Lord Chaitanya. He did these activities. Lord Chaitanya would engage in Ratha Yatra, he would go on Harinam Sankirtan, he would chant and dance in the house of Srivas Thakur all night long and all day long, and he would sit with Swarup Damodar and read Bhagavatam. He would sit with Gadadhar Pandit and read Bhagavatam 3 hours every day and discuss Bhagavatam. So when we do these kinds of activities with advanced devotees, we feel like, wow, we're living in Chaitanya Leela. It's like, it becomes that kind of experience. So this is just a few thoughts that I can share in this regard. Anyone else like to add how we can deepen our absorption and actually feel like we're entering into the spirit of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam? Yes, Prabhu, go ahead. Can you give him a microphone, please?
Maybe keeping track of like progress that you make, having some sort of goal, and looking back and realizing how much you already are absorbed compared to some previous point in the past, and how you can just, if you've made that progress, what does the future hold? So just have patience and continue these forms of devotional service.
Thank you.
I also have a question though.
Okay, just a second.
we
Let me
have time.
digest what you just said. So, you're saying having a goal can be helpful in increasing the absorption. I'm just wondering, how do we measure absorption? How can we measure how absorbed we are? You want to answer that? Yeah? Give him a mic.
Maybe by the amount of time we're spending engaged in devotional activities versus time when we might not.
How much time is in Krishna consciousness and how much time is in Maya consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to increase the Krishna consciousness and reduce the Maya consciousness, increase the absorption. And again, I'd like to stress the association of devotees is so valuable for that. It really helps us to get in the mood. It's infectious. Birds of a feather flock together like that. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, can you give him a mic? He has a question.
I also have a question about the varnashram system. So there's 4 social orders and 4 spiritual orders. And I guess I've never gotten clarification on how they might overlap. Like a social order, someone being a Vaishya or a Sudra, would they be able to function in the spiritual order of, let's say, an extreme like sannyas? Or do certain social and spiritual orders correspond more nicely with each other?
Mm-hmm. So thank you for your question. If I understand your question properly, you're asking, is there a relationship between the spiritual orders and the social orders? Is that correct? Yes. So in an ideal world, yes, there is a relationship The sannyasis should ideally be the topmost brahmanas. Okay? Now it is said, Kalo Sudra Sambhava. In Kali Yuga, everyone is a Sudra. So then how does this work? How do we have sannyasis that are supposed to be brahmanas and everything like that? So there's a shloka mentioned by Sanatan Goswami in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, wherein he explains that just as an expert alchemist can convert bell metal into gold, similarly, the expert spiritual master can convert even a Sudra into the topmost Vaishnava. So by the mercy and the training of the spiritual master, we can actually transcend this varnashram system. And through training, we can develop Brahminical qualifications by the training system given to us by Srila Prabhupada. Do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, maybe just to clarify. So in this age of Kali, everyone being, at least in the social order of Sudras, not having any social relationship to the Vedic system, because it doesn't really exist. So here in Krishna consciousness, the spiritual orders are what is emphasized, because obviously we do have grihastas and vanaprasthas and sannyasis and brahmacharis.
Yeah, we try to develop both sides. The Chaturvanya Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha, both the social and the spiritual orders within ISKCON. We're trying to develop all these things. But especially we're focusing on the Brahminic, within our inner core, we're focusing on the Brahminical concept. Because we need teachers, we need people to share and teach people and lead people about Krishna consciousness. This is very important. Of all the different social orders, the brahmanas are considered the head. And if you lose the brahmanas are the head, the kshatriyas are the arms, the vaishyas are the stomach, and the shudras are the legs. All are important, but if you lose a leg, you'll still survive. But if there's no head, you cannot move. So similarly, society right now is practically andha, it's practically blind. There's no head, there's no brain. It's just the blind leading the blind. So one of the purposes of ISKCON is to create this Brahminical class of men who can, based on the revealed scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, they can actually give good guidance to society based upon the scriptures. So the Brahminical order is emphasized in ISKCON. But we also encourage devotees to learn proper administration like Kshatriyas, to do cow protection and farming and finance like Vaishyas, and also to run the show like Shudras. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, amazingly, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So it's going to be over here. We're going to get a darshan, hopefully in about 40 seconds. So at this point, I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for coming tonight. Thank you so much. Very grateful to you. And we're very grateful to Srila Prabhupada for giving us this wonderful knowledge. And we hope and pray that we can serve his movement very nicely and help distribute this knowledge to the world. Thank you very much. Oh, and one good news I have is I came from Mayapur, West Bengal, our world headquarters, and I have some Nisinga oil. So everyone can come up and get a little bit. Come, quick. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. Hare Krishna. You're welcome. Let the ladies come first. They don't have the nature to kind of push in the front. Yeah, there you go. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Oh, thank you, sir. Okay, thank you. Prabhu, you said you just brought some Mahaprasad for me. You put it on the table. Did you get?
Sorry, this rain got stuck.
Start singing. Here.
Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste